Maybe there's a window I can look at it wistfully or something. Tell me about why you chose this avatar and this world.
So they're kind of linked together. When I first started playing VRChat, it was because I joined a clone trooper like military role play. That wasn't really like military, but like it was like a clone trooper role play, you know. And you know, I made a lot of friends. That's where most of my VR friends came from that group. And you know, as time went on, we all got closer, and eventually after like we do like our trainings or whatever, we would come to this world and we'd all just hang out and talk, you know, get out of character and everything. So to me, it just felt kind of right to choose this avatar while being in this world. I haven't really been in this world in probably a year. Last time I was here, you know, I was, you know, in that group, but it disbanded since then with some drama and stuff. But you know, they're kind of linked together in that aspect. Technically since 2020, but I only played it for a few hours. Then I didn't start like actually playing it until like about 2022, like late 2022 or August. That was when I joined the Clone Trooper military simulator, and I spent most of my free time in VRChat after that. I think it's a great tool. I don't really consider it a game or anything. I think it's a tool to, you know, help people socialize, you know. I feel like I've seen the most people who have issues socializing in real life, they have an easier time doing it in VRChat because they can look however they want. They can, you know, present themselves in any way that they want. And I feel like that's because of that, I kind of see it more as a tool because I've seen it help more people in that specific way. I'm 18. I'm a senior in high school, trying to figure my life out, what I'm gonna do after, you know, how I want to spend my time, you know, trying to balance everything. I work time too. There's not that much else, you know. My hobbies, obviously VR is one of them. I've been getting into like PC building and stuff, and then another one I'm into is collecting Warhammer figures. Warhammer figures are some of my favorite little trinkets to collect and paint. And then for my occupation, I just work fast food.
So you mentioned that you are an ex-Mormon. Tell me about growing up Mormon.
I feel like it's not that different from growing up as like any other like form of Christian. There's a few like small differences in the way adults interact with the Mormon church, but as a child, you don't really. There's not that many other differences from just like growing up like evangelical or, you know, maybe like Catholic or something, you know. So. Here, let me think of something. So for example, like, you know, a lot of kids who grow up Christian grow up with the idea that the rapture, or as Mormons call it, the second coming, is going to happen in their lifetime. But I knew so many old people who said that the second coming was going to happen in their time, so that when people would say, oh, it's going to happen in your lifetime, I always instinctively thought, but like, didn't other people say that and then they died? So I always just thought it was going to happen later on after me. So a lot of people I know grew up with some fear that the apocalypse was going to happen. I didn't really have that though, because I always thought, oh, other people said and it didn't happen, so I figured it'll happen later. But so some like traditions and rituals, I guess you could call them, you know, a lot of it is pretty similar to other like, you know, in forms of Christianity. So, you know, there's like what is it called in other forms of Christianity or whatever. There's something called the sacrament, where every Sunday, you know, you take the sacrament. It's supposed to be representative of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, you know. Baptisms, You have to be 8 years old to be baptized. And one of the things about Mormonism is that, you know, you're not really considered like a sinner until you're after 8 years old, which is still pretty young, but it has the upside of, oh, children don't go to hell unless they're after 8 years old. Other things, I know there's something called baptism by proxy, or like baptism for the dead, where when you turn 12, you're able to go into the temples and you're able to be baptized in the name of somebody who's already died without being baptized. Usually it'll be something like somebody in your family, but after a specific number of years, the church gets their hands on public records, and after a specific amount of time, they're able to like legally like baptize people by proxy. I think it's after like 90 years or something, because otherwise you'd need the family's permission in order to do that. So they just wait until it's public domain or whatever, so they can get as many random people baptized by proxy.
So, when you were Mormon and you would tell somebody who wasn't Mormon, how did they react?
It usually depends on what they know. Because I've known some people who have varying degrees of like knowledge on the Mormon church. You know, like some people would think like, oh, aren't you like, do you have like multiple moms or something? And I'm like, no, that hasn't happened in the mainstream Mormon church for hundreds of years. Well, technically a little less than 100, but well, no, little over 100, sorry. You know, there's people who ask about that. There's other people who say, oh, you know, that's not Christian. And I'm like, Christianity is whatever you make of it. If you don't consider Mormons Christian, that's, I don't care. I'm not going to try and convince you that they are. I don't care. But mostly it's just, you know, a lot of questions about it. I grew up in a city that has a predominant Mormon population in the area that I usually grew up, so I didn't really have that many experiences talking with people who weren't Mormon. But when I did, you know, it was usually like with my friends or something who didn't know, or, you know, had questions later on after they met me or something. It was nothing really crazy. I've never like had anybody like come up and like try and, you know, debate my religion or whatever, you know. So
why did you exit Mormonism?
For a few personal reasons. First, I came out as bisexual, and, you know, I was prepared to live as a Mormon and bisexual. You know, I remember when my dad found out, you know, I didn't come out to him. He found out by going through my texts. But I said, no, I know it's not right that I feel this way about, you know, other men as well as women. But, you know, it's something that I'm prepared to work with, you know, that kind of deal. And later on, earlier on, sorry, my brother came out as gay, and when he went through a similar ordeal. He was trying to reconcile himself in order to be favorable in, you know, the eyes of, you know, his family or the church or whatever. And when he left the church, I think it kind of just like clicked with me, like, oh, you know, I don't need to change who I am. I don't need to look favorable in the eyes of some institution in order to, you know, be myself, you know. And later on, you know, I also came out as non-binary as well. And, you know, I ended up learning a little more things about, you know, the founding of the church and, you know, what its original principles were and stuff that just kind of resonated. I was like, okay, I don't want to be a part of this in like any form. Because up until that point, I always saw it as something like maybe I'll go back if I ever like gain a testimony again. But looking back, it's like, no, I don't think that'll ever happen. Because I was just mostly spoon-fed everything. I didn't have that much, like, I didn't have like internet access, like to a wide degree, very, very limited. So I wasn't able to experience like other fandoms or anything. It was mostly just everything I could see at home or maybe at school. And it wasn't until like around middle school that like I learned that there is a very large portion of, you know, LGBTQIA people, you know, just in the world who just live. And, you know, I have to thank one of my friends for helping me like break down my beliefs, because, you know, before that, I didn't even know gay people existed. So I wouldn't have been homophobic, because I wouldn't have been taught that, oh, this is against our church. But it kind of broke down over time. And, you know, when I had friends who were pansexual or transgender or something, you know, that kind of like why can't they get baptized? You know, why doesn't the church endorse them having their children baptized if they wanted to have their children baptized? I can't think of anybody who would want their kids baptized if they were LGBTQ in the Mormon church. But, you know, it didn't make sense to me as to why, you know, they wouldn't allow families of people like that to experience, you know, the blessings of eternal happiness or whatever, you know, that the Mormon church advertised. So there's a few stereotypes that I can think of like off the top of my head. Obviously, I think one of the like, not like the biggest one, but like one of the biggest ones is the polygamy thing, which is not true for mainstream Mormonism. It hasn't been a thing since like the late 1800s, I think, like the late 19th century. And then the 20th century, there was still a lot of racism and stuff in the church, but, you know. Another one I think that is kind of true is Mormons and Diet Coke or Diet Dr. Pepper. One of the things that's often like brought up when Mormons are brought up is that you're not allowed to drink coffee. You know, you're not allowed to drink coffee or tea or alcohol. So the thing like a lot of Mormon people will do is they'll substitute coffee with Diet Coke or like Diet Dr. Pepper or some form of like diet caffeinated soda, you know. I think that's a very true stereotype, that Mormons drink a lot of diet caffeinated sodas as a substitute for coffee.
Is there anything you miss about the Mormon community?
I'd say probably like the sense of importance. Because when you're in the Mormon church, you're told, you know, you're going to be a missionary. You're going to bring the gospel to other people. You know, you're going to save their souls. Well, not like save their souls, but like, you know, you're going to help them like see the light. And, you know, it's brought up a lot to, you know, you go on a 2-year mission away from your family when you turn 18. And, you know, you're treated with a lot of respect when you do that. It's something that just kind of like, I don't know, I just miss, not like I don't miss the thing itself, but I miss feeling like people saw some like grand plan for me, you know, like they saw some important mission that I had to do, you know, that I was going to be the last generation on earth before Jesus returns, you know. I don't follow any particular religion. I believe there's forces beyond our comprehension in higher planes of reality or something. I don't think they made the universe. I think everything is because it just is. Who knows if it's aliens that live in another dimension or something. I just think that there's something out there that, we can think of as observing us, or we can relate to them in some sense, that we look at like ants or something. So I don't really believe in like God or anything, but I just think there's something out there.
You're still in high school. Are you still living with your parents?
I am, yeah. I'm living with my parents.
And do they know you aren't Mormon?
Yeah, they do. They're not happy, but they've stopped pestering me about it as much. My hopes are that, people will resolve their conflicts in ways that don't result in bloodshed. That's my hope. My dreams, however, my dream is to just live comfortably like I am now. I want to be able to work hard and then come home and, spend my time doing things I love, like getting in VRChat or, painting Warhammer figures or something. So I don't really have any specifics for like what type of job I want to have or where I want to live or something, as long as I can, feel satisfied with what I do in my day-to-day life and be able to unwind and still do the things I love. That's my dream.
Do you have any final comments, thoughts, or advice for the viewers?
If you're experiencing some form of doubt in your religion, don't try and shove it down. Explore how you feel about it. Think about what could be causing you to feel this way about, your beliefs, your system of belief or whatever. And do any research, pretty much. The Mormon Church discourages research into the roots of it from outside sources because they report on it in a more academic manner that doesn't bias towards the church. So do your research if you're feeling doubts about something. That's about it.